Hey everyone, welcome to r/Tales from Tech Support, where we get to have a little chuckle at the technically disadvantaged. I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got some stories for you. I still can't believe it happened. So I work tech support for an ISP, so I get my run of people who can't understand that we don't fix your computer to impatient people who just want to tech out tomorrow who is going to do the thing you couldn't be bothered to do for me today. Does that make sense? Yesterday, I had a lovely couple, and I don't imply any sarcasm with that. The man was ranting and raving that the little booger did something to his internet and now nothing is working. I eventually learned the grandson was at the house, was playing Xbox, made a mess, and then got all grumpy at the grandparents when they got home from church to discover the mess. The kid is 15. His last act was to remove the Xbox from the router, storm out, complaining at the grandparents, and suddenly, nothing was working on the network. So I'm going through the standard troubleshooting, reset the router, reset the modem again, because they still can't understand which one is which. Reset the router. Still nothing. Now here's the weird part. I can't actually log into the router since it's not connecting to the TR-069 servers, but I can see several things coming up as customer premises equipment. After 20 minutes of disconnecting and reconnecting Ethernet cables from between the modem and router, it finally dawned on me there was more than one device connected on a modem within a single connection, which can only mean that the router is bridged. So we factory reset the modem, again with the missed difference between the modem and the router. Factory reset the router and voila, they're online and able to connect. At which point I can also finally log into the router. I started looking for the settings, so if I ever have this issue again, I can get them to log into the router and fix the settings. But I look, and nowhere in any settings page is NAT or bridge mode able to be set. I have no idea how he bridged the router, but he did it. And shall it be said, Mom and Dad probably got a pretty nasty phone call from Grandpa over the home invasion. But Grandpa was proud of the kid doing something that probably shouldn't have been able to be done. Too long didn't read. A 15-year-old with a bad attitude and a bit more skill than brains bridges a router without the ability anywhere to set it to bridge mode. Kid sounds like a genius. A little misguided, but a genius. Somebody needs to steer that kid's energy into something technical, like teach him some stuff. He already knows some stuff, but he needs to be taught to do good with it. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments. My first one. Hello friends, long-time reader here, and for the first time, I have something worth posting. I do database/server administration for a large application. As tends to happen, even though it isn't really part of my job, I also end up spending a lot of time as tech support for the developers who work on the application. I recently moved into a larger office where we're also mixed in with some of the end users. So I'm finding that even some of them will ask me for help once in a while. This isn't a big deal. I don't mind helping, but as I'm sure you can guess, this can lead to some interesting situations. With all the virus stuff going on right now, my office is still open, but plans are being put in place in case we need to shut down and work from home. Most of the end users don't have work laptops and wouldn't really be on the hook if the office closed. But they sent around an email saying everyone needs to make sure they have multi-factor authentication set up so they can access their work email from the Outlook web portal from home. So this lady comes up to me on Friday with her laptop and says she isn't able to connect to the office Wi-Fi hotspot, which we have set up for testing exactly this sort of thing that should work when we're not jacked into the office network. So I say, okay, show me what the problem is. She logs in and connects to the network, no problem. She's like, well that's weird, I don't know what happened. Before the network wasn't even showing up. I say, no worries. Then she goes off to test out the MFA for Outlook. A few minutes later, she comes back and says she's having the same problem. Her. I'm trying to test getting into my email from outside the office, but when I go down into the square, the Wi-Fi isn't showing up. Me. Wait, out in the square? Like, outside the building? This poor lady thought that in order to test logging into her email when she wasn't in the office, she had to physically leave the office. so naturally the Wi-Fi on the 9th floor wasn't working from outside in the square. As soon as I pointed this out, she realized what a silly mistake this was. She confirmed that if she could get into her email from the office Wi-Fi, that would mean she could do it from home. Thanked me and started to walk away. Then she turned around and said, "Sorry, as you can probably tell, I'm not a technical person." My eyes widened as I realized that for the first time, I was living in a Tales from Tech Support post. "No problem, ma'am. Have a good day." Yeah, sometimes as humans, we tend to overcomplicate things a little, don't we? You ever run into this stuff? Let me know in the comments down below. User attempts to perform astral projection. Background. I work as a help desk tech for a college that is currently swamped with work from home support. We have also pushed out Microsoft Teams to Office workstations for remote communications. K equals me, U equals user. Me. College name IT help desk, this is K, how can I help you? User. I'm trying to work from home, but Teams doesn't work. The webcam isn't picking me up at all. But I got into my workstation just fine, so I don't know why it doesn't work. Me. Okay, you remote controlling your desktop at college name? User. Yes. Okay, are you using Teams that's installed on your laptop or Surface? User. No, the one installed on my desktop. Cue internal def. Me. That's not gonna work. Because you're running Teams on your office computer, it's using your office webcam, which you're not in front of because you're at home. Do you have Teams installed on your laptop? User. I don't think so. I'll spend some time and see if I can figure it out. Me. Okay, have a great day. Being IT support and education, I keep thinking people would use their brains. I get proven wrong every day. Yeah, speaking of overcomplicating things, I'm not sure why somebody couldn't figure out that if you're remoting into a computer in your office from far away, and you're logging into that computer's, the remote computer's system, why would you think that webcam would show your face? I don't understand. Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. I want it working now! Now! Sounds like my 8-year-old. My industry is fairly specialized, so I'm going to be vague about the product details. I'm basically a glorified electrician that spends 80% of my time helping techs around the country troubleshoot electrical control systems over the phone. That's a mouthful. Sometimes a customer finds our number and plays the game of musical phone transfers long enough to speak with my department. We aren't supposed to talk to end users, but it still happens. This story is about one of the more unpleasant times I talked to a customer. So no kidding, there I was, enjoying a relatively peaceful morning when I grab a call from our sister department that supports the app allowing for remote control of our product. The tech, we will refer to as Shell Shock, says the customer's problem wasn't through the control app, so he needed to talk to someone who knew the electrical side. It was about something we will call Option A, and how they couldn't make it turn off. I think to myself, oh, no problem, since it's Option A. We can look at a few lights, check their start run settings, and in the absolute worst case, just yank out a wire. I tell Shell Shock to transfer the call and we'll get started. Shell Shock was new and apparently pretty shaken because he didn't even so much as hint that I would soon be talking to the incandescent ball of rage we will refer to as Screamy. Service, this is me. Screamy. Service? Finally! We're gonna have to make this fast because my boss is yelling at me, and we need Option A off now. This app isn't doing squat. Me. Okay, what kind of control panel are we dealing with? Screamy. Frick, I don't know. Why the heck does that matter? This app isn't doing squat. I just want Option A off now. Me. Shell Shock was able to determine the app was functional, which means we either have an electrical issue or a setting issue in the control panel. I need to know the types so I can tell you what lights to look at and how to navigate the menus. Screamy. Frick, I don't know. It's big and redacted color. I just want option A off now. This is absolutely no help, as that is every control panel we sell. Me. It should tell us the panel type next to the power switch in great big letters. Screamy. I'm not even near the effing panel. Why the F do I need to be at the panel? I need this remote controller to work now. What is so effing hard about that? I am completely silent for a long time because I absolutely cannot solve an electrical issue on an unknown panel without at least having someone tell me what our blinky lights are doing on the circuit board. A few exchanges later, I finally figure out the type of panel. Then he tells me that the other people are telling him option A is now off, despite us doing absolutely nothing. I tell him that it sounds like their start-stop settings need to have their values adjusted because there is no direct off button at the panel or on the app. You need to set the numerical windows for starting and stopping. It's pretty obvious he has completely checked out of our, up until now, entirely one-sided shouting match. I tell him to call his local dealer to adjust the settings. Normally I'd be happy to assist, but I'm ready to be done with this guy. I hang up and go for a long walk. In my 4 years at the company, I have only had about 5 calls with really angry people. This was the only time I have ever been on the phone with a completely unreasonable screaming maniac. I was pretty shaky and flinched a lot on my next 3 calls. Luckily, they were all with completely reasonable, polite, and trained technicians that I had talked to dozens of times before. I am really thankful most of my time is spent dealing with those excellent individuals. Yeah, there's no point in screaming and hollering. Somebody calls me with that attitude and that volume, click. What do you think? Would you deal with that? Would you listen to it? I mean, I know it's most people's jobs and they're afraid of getting fired or written up or something, but at what point do you make the call and just sever the call? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Remote access fun. So I'm a new IT manager for my company. And of course, a week out from getting my position, we had this lovely pandemic. My bosses want me to get laptops set up for remote access for all the office staff immediately, which luckily isn't too big of an issue. I test all the connections and try my best to idiot-proof everything, going to each user before they left for the day and walking them through the process before they leave. However, this is where I made a fatal mistake. Never assume your users know anything. So the next morning I get a call at 7 a.m. User 1. Hey OP, I can't remote into my desktop at work. Can you help? Me. Yeah, no problem. Did you connect the VPN like I showed you? User 1. I tried, but it says no internet. I have Wi-Fi at home. Why don't I have internet? Me. Did you connect the laptop to your home Wi-Fi first? User 1. Please don't tell anyone about this. Me. Only the internet, buddy. No one in the office will know. Time passes. 7:30 a.m. User 2. Hey, I can't access the VPN. Says I don't have internet. 7:45 a.m. User 3. Hey man, says I've got no internet. Can't get into my computer. Help. Only took a week for me to learn to write down every step for users, even ones you think are common sense. My first real IT job. Yup, never make assumptions. That goes for any field. I ran construction jobs for a long time. I assumed guys knew how to drive a nail or turn a screwdriver or carry a piece of lumber without throwing their backs out. Nope. Gotta show them every step. But that's why we had a job. I've been doing this for 20 years. So it's been a while, about 6 months or so to be exact, since the last adventure in a series of workplace follies. Backstory. In the series we have an IT director that knows enough jargon to stay in their position while failing to secure the network with basic patching in posts 1 and 2, only to get audited in post "we have a firewall." And just to let you guys know, I'm going to have a link to this post down below where I give credit in the description box. And you can kind of follow the rabbit trail from there. Cast of characters. Me equals, well, yeah, me. And IT director, you guessed it, the IT director. Over the 4-ish years I spent working for this individual, many of our conversations either started or ended with the magic phrase, "I've been doing this for 20 years. But just to flash back to the very beginning, I was brought in to refresh the network in the beginning, and the joke was it was put together with electrical tape and bubblegum. That wasn't too far from the truth. The previous network admin had never maintained the network. Half the switches had burned out, ports or cards in them. The core network was a makeup of 5-port hub off the modem that was plugged into the firewall, the core switch, and some other odds and ends devices. My first task was to rebuild the network. What I wasn't told was prior to being hired, the IT director went out and purchased about 24 Cisco L2 switches, about 4 or 5 months prior to being hooked up at all the locations, and a new Metro E connection. My very first conversation with the IT director went about like this. Me. You purchased layer 2 switches for a layer 3 Metro E network. IT director. This is what I was told to buy. Me. By who? IT director. Cisco. Me. Well, they told you wrong. You need layer 3 switches and not layer 2 access switches in order for this to work. IT director. Well, I've been in IT for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. Fast forward a few years through the follies of not patching servers, computers, switches, etc., getting audited for security. About a month before I left, as usually I was alerted to my annual review, given a draft to make comments, concerns, etc. Upon further review, the IT director decided they were going to take on the reviews that particular year for some reason. In it was some of the usual notes of work, etc., but what struck me as odd from the onset were some more critical notes on failing to complete tasks and projects, failing to purchase equipment or services for tasks or projects. This sent me upon what I always live by: document everything, save every email, purchase order, etc. In return, I sent a letter to the HR director outlining some of the issues, misrepresentations, and just outright lies with documentation, emails, purchase orders, etc. So the response was, take this up with the IT director. So the day rolled around for the face-to-face to finalize the annual review, and it went sort of like this. Me. So I have some issues with the review. You stated I failed to complete Project X. Here's the documentation that it was completed. You also stated I didn't purchase said products for Project Y. Here's the purchase orders, and so on. IT director. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I know how things are supposed to be done, and they weren't. Me. That's not true. Here's all the notes, documentation, purchase orders, etc., showing the work was in fact completed. Further, I've also been in IT for nearly 20 years, on the front lines. Times have evolved. We don't do things like we used to do it. So in doing it the way you did things 20 years ago, it doesn't work like that any longer, and therefore, projects are completed in a different fashion. For example, you wanted backups to only be done by tape. That's not safe to only have one backup medium. So when we started backing up to tape and retaining to disk, you requested we stop doing that. I explained why that was a bad idea, and when we got hit by malware, we were able to restore much faster from the disk in the middle of the night, and you changed your mind on your backup procedures. IT director. Well, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I like the way I do things. Me. By doing things, you mean buying layer 2 switches when you needed layer 3, or still no implementation of encryption to databases, laptops, etc., when requested by the state auditor to do so? Or how about the time you spent $30,000 on a server in SharePoint when we operate as a nonprofit and can get SharePoint free of charge through O365? Following this conversation, we agreed to disagree. I refused to sign my review and walked into the HR department and gave my notice. Nearly 18 months later, the agency was hit by several more malware infections, failed an audit for not implementing encryption, still running Windows 7, 2008, etc. Wow. It's almost like being in the military. Advance the morons to get them out of the way so you can actually get the job done. The problem is eventually they hit the top and they're still morons. You ever work for somebody like that? Let me know in the comments down below. Server down. I have a friend that works in IT and we often talk about the dumbest tickets he's gotten. This one is our mutual favorite. At the time, he was working for a major apparel/retail chain. A ticket comes in about midday marked with the priority status. The ticket simply reads, "We can't process any sales." He calls the store and speaks with the manager, who explains that their POS registers are down and they have a line starting to stack up. He tries to access their network remotely but can't get through. He figures that the internet service provider for the mall must have had an outage and asks her to try using the public Wi-Fi to confirm his suspicion. She does, but it works. His next course of action is to send her to the local server to reboot it. She does, and the problem still isn't resolved. He informs her that the problem won't be able to be handled remotely and that he'll have to send one of their contractors to the store to look into it. Before they hang up, she adds the side note, "By the way, we also had this really old computer in the back that wasn't being used, so I had one of my staff pack it up. Would you like us to send it anywhere specific, or should we just throw it out?" The dots connect and the "I don't want to live on this planet anymore" meme plays through his head. It turns out she had one of her staff unplug and pack up the server, thinking it was a relic from a bygone age, and the computer she restarted was the desktop in her office. They had to tell people in line that they wouldn't be able to make any sales that day and had to close the store. Because the server had been unplugged without being shut down properly, they had lost a few transactions that were being processed at the time it was unplugged, and it took the IT department hours to wire it all back in and get the terminals functioning properly again. I suspect they weren't in any hurry to get this manager back onto the network. Again, why do people make decisions when they don't know what they're looking at? It just blows my mind. Hey guys, if you made it this far, do me a favor. Can you go ahead and click like and give us a subscribe? And check out these videos here on the screen. I think you'll enjoy those too.